welcome back to another Queensbridge Financial Strategy webinar, where we educate clients by showing them where they're losing money unknowingly and not necessarily. All right, before we start, please read this disclaimer so we can make the lawyers happy. Okay, so while we wait for more people to sign in, please read about today's speakers, Tony Lippick, Ray Dragunez, and James Wong. All right, so we would like to welcome everyone to today's webinar on the topic of personal economic strategy, a roadmap to a better financial future. We will talk about these main topics. What is your 5 areas where you're losing money unknowingly and unnecessarily, and your personal GPS, where are you currently? We would like to also remind you that we have muted the audio and video functions, as well as disabling the raising hand function throughout the webinar. Please feel free to write your question in the Q&A section below. All right, so if everyone's ready, let's begin.
Okay, welcome everybody. So we had a technical glitch there. So this webinar is a follow-up to our radio show we had on BNN Bloomberg Radio on Saturday. It's an extension of what we discussed, which was the personal economic strategy. I have Tony Lippick and James Wong with me. Tony and James, how are you today?
Great, great, Ray. It's been too long already. It feels like it was a year ago the last time we presented.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we're trying to do this once a month. James, how are you doing?
Doing very well, Ray. Thanks.
Great. So as Pam said, type your questions in the chat when you have a chance. If we don't get to your question, then we'll try to respond by email as soon as we can. And once this is recorded, it will be showing up on Queensbridge Financial Strategy Television, QBFS TV, on the YouTube channel. All right, so let's start with the personal economic strategy. Tony, what is the personal economic strategy? And I think we've got some slides to illustrate the concept.
Yes. Pam, if you could put the slide up. The personal economic strategy is based on the personal economic model that everyone has. It can describe everything that you do within finance, everything that you have, and anything you're planning on doing with financial foundation. The definition is basically looking at the model. It looks a lot like piping and tanks. And the analogy is that money is similar to water, and there's a constant flow. If you look at the very far left tank, it's your lifetime capital potential, your income potential. And it's amazing how much we actually flow through our hands. It's hard to fathom how much money actually flows through our hands. We're going to give an example later that everyone can create and look at the number that they have. It will be surprisingly shocking. And basically the money flows into the lifetime capital potential and it flows down. And as it goes down, CRAs are a silent partner that wants our share. We got to feed them. They're really happy to take some money out of us. And whatever money we don't pay to the government, we either spend on our current lifestyle or we pump up into our future lifestyle tanks, basically investments and savings. The two of them are basically the risk and safe tank. And what we don't save, we spend, and once we spend it, it's gone. There's a constant war between current versus future lifestyle, and it's insatiable, and it's something very interesting that a lot of people don't even realize it's happening.
Yeah, it's incredible that how current lifestyle just creeps in. You start spending a few dollars here and there, and next thing you know, it is all flowing out to the right, and very little is diverted up to the risk and safe tank. So essentially, money's coming in, it starts filling that lifetime capital potential tank, starts flowing down, and then CRA, as I said, takes their cut, and then we have a choice: either we start pumping something up to the risk and safe tanks, or we just spend it and let it go out the side, and like you said, it's gone forever. So that kind of summarizes it, doesn't it, Tony?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. It's quite an involved diagram. I'm actually going to throw out early here if there are any questions around that. Pam, do we have anything in the chat so far that may be addressed?
Yeah, we have a question from Paul, and he asks, what's the difference between risk and safe?
Okay, Tony.
Thanks. The difference between risk and safe is basically the risk tank is where you put your investments that move with the market or any other vehicle. It could be from property rentals, it could be in the stock market, it could be anything that fits into that, and it'll be risky because the prices move up and down and we have no control over it. The safe tank is basically like your grandma's cookie jar or under her mattress. It's always there for a rainy day unless the grandkids figure out how to get into that cookie jar.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's so true. Pam, any other questions?
Yeah, we have a great question from Joanne, and she asks, is a TFSA considered safe?
Good question.
Well, TFSA depends, because TFSA is a tax-free savings account. It basically is the vehicle name. It's the type of account. In that account, you could put anything in. You could have it in the safe tank or you can have it in the risk tank. However, majority of Canadians have it in the risk tank and they don't even realize it. When I talk to some of my clients and I say, what are you doing with your TFSA? They turn around and say, well, I don't know. Our financial institution just put us in there and they told us, don't worry about it. It's going to grow. And they put us into something. And it's amazing how that something is usually a mutual fund, but they didn't even realize they did. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so TFSA is actually the basket, and then what you've got in that basket qualifies whether or not you're in risk or safe. So if you're in an equity mutual fund, it goes up and down, and just when you need that money for your emergency, it could be down or it could be up. You don't know. Whereas if it's in a safe tank, collecting some sort of savings, you'd be better off. Is that right, Tony?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, Pam?
No other questions.
All right. So Tony, during the radio show last week, we touched on 5 areas where people lose money unknowingly and unnecessarily, and where they have what we call that wealth transfer. Can you touch on those 5 areas?
The 5 main areas are housing expense, taxes, your registered savings plans, and your education, and also major purchases. I'm going to cover the first 3, and then I'll let James take over for the following 2.
Okay.
The housing expense, I have a question for everybody. When will you stop paying for your housing expense? Okay, it's great to have a mortgage, and when you pay it off, that's fantastic, but will the utility bills stop? Will the property taxes stop? Will you need to do renovations? There's a constant flow that we are spending on our housing expense, so it doesn't end at all. However, a lot of people really focus on paying down that mortgage in a hurry, which is a good thing, but paying it down, and as far as I'm concerned, it's like paying it down and it's a solid brick, and then you hope you were going to be able to access it later.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize to access equity in their homes, the banks lend on cash flow as opposed to just the equity. Like you have to have money to support that drawdown or draw out of the house. A lot of people don't realize that.
Correct. That's a big fallacy. There's so many people that tell me, oh, I've got equity in my house. I can, when I need money, I can go and tap it. And it's like, well, if you can qualify, and qualifying means you usually have income to almost every time saying that you have income to cover that.
Yeah. I mean, you could have a house worth over $1 million, but if you don't have the income to support drawing equity, you might be only draw a fraction of it. I mean, there's other vehicles like reverse mortgages and things like that, but that's for another topic. Okay, sorry, Tony, interrupted. So move on to your next one. I think it's taxes.
Yeah, the next one's taxes. I've got a question for everyone out there. What does the government produce? Well, really, they produce nothing, but they do spend on social programs, on multiple things. Ironically, taxes were introduced as a temporary measure to pay off World War I debts 100 years ago, but that temporary tax is still around, which a lot of people don't, it's just common now.
It's a long war, it seems.
Yeah, very long war. Most of us want to pay our fair share of taxes. For those that don't want to pay, the government will gladly accept more money from you. You just cut them a check and they have no problem saying thank you very much. So taxes is another area that a lot of people don't realize the impact on their savings and their future lifestyle.
Yeah, and we just had an election this week, and with a minority government, with COVID bills, we're going to see our taxes go up at every level. Federal, likely provincial, as well as local and municipal. I mean, they're going to go for those property tax evaluations, and ties into your housing expense argument. Things are going to get more expensive down the road.
For sure.
So sorry, I keep jumping in there, Tony. How about registered plans, RSPs, RIFs, things like that?
Yeah, registered savings plans and retirement income funds when you hit 71. Basically, those are vehicles that are tax deferring vehicles. A better word should be tax postponement, because today we're at the lowest historical level of taxation in our country, and it's nice to get a deduction today. But the thing is, in reality, you're getting peanuts for what they're going to take out of us later when you go to pay. The government CRA is a silent partner with us. They just can't wait. They let us take all the risk on our investments, let it grow, and then they turn around and take the money. When we take the money out, they actually take a percentage of it. But we don't know what that percentage is. They're going to tell us when they feel like it down the road. Unfortunately, planning around that is very fluid, and it would be very hard to guess. However, where we are today at the lowest point, one of the lowest points in history, it's inconceivable to see that it's not going to be at higher than we are today. So that will take out a chunk of money. You feel like you have a lot in your registered savings plans. A lot of people do, because we've been programmed that that's what we have to do, especially every February, the first first 60 days of the year to put it in to get a bit of a savings. But the amount of savings that you're getting will be very small in comparison to what you're going to be paying down the road, especially that you've grown those assets over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of financial plans play off of the, you'll be in a lower marginal tax rate when you retire. There's no guarantee of that. I mean, look what we're going through right now with the election. All I have to do is dial up the marginal tax rate a little bit, and that just brings in so much more money for the government. And then, the government at the end of the day has a vested interest in your RSPs. I mean, they're looking for, as you said, for the client, it's a postponement. It's also deferred revenue for the government, and they see that money coming in. They'll see it coming in, and that'll be a source of revenue for them. And I think one thing that people don't realize is when you have two spouses and one passes away, and you transfer tax-free to the surviving spouse. All of a sudden, if they both had, like, say, 500,000 hypothetically in a RSP, now the surviving spouse has $1 million, and there's the required withdrawal, so you can't game it. You have to take a certain amount out, and that could affect entitlements like old age security.
Correct. And I actually have had clients that have been very successful on the outside and they're happy to be successful, and I'm happy for them. But they've saved their money in RSPs, and they've built up a nest egg outside rental properties and some other income that they're getting from small pensions here and pensions there combined. And amazingly enough, they have so much income that once they start riffing or retirement income fund from Canadians that are forced to do that, they basically were writing checks directly to Revenue Canada for what was coming out. So they took the risk, they grew it, and bye-bye, the money went.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Okay, I think we're going to move on here, Tony, because we could probably spend a whole show on RSP RIFs and taxation. So I'm going to move on to James. James, you're going to handle education expense. Tell us how that works and how that's a wealth transfer to clients.
Okay, thanks, Ray. Well, I don't have questions for the attendees, but I do have to say that education is pretty expensive. I have 2 kids myself, so education costs can be as high as $20,000 a year. With 2 kids, that's $40,000 there. And we have a great tool, which is an RASP, but it's not enough to cover the education expense itself. So it can be very expensive, like I say.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. The RSP is a good vehicle. I mean, you get the credit from the government. It helps you kind of top things up. It's essentially free money coming in. But what people don't realize is that has to be invested in something. Again, kind of going back to Tony's earlier illustration of the safe tank and the risk tank. So if you want that money to grow, it should be in some kind of growth instrument, call it an equity mutual fund or something. But then as you approach the need to use it, you have to dial that back. And the question becomes, when do you move from the risk to the non-risk? And it becomes kind of messy. And then the other thing is, when that money comes out, it's taxable in the beneficiary's hands, which is great because usually students are in a lower tax bracket. But what if they have a summer job or have a good, I worked construction university. You can make some pretty good money in the summertime. All of a sudden, you get bumped into a new tax bracket, and that can affect your RESP income and total income. That's
correct.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to major capital purchases. James, what do you classify as major capital purchases?
So the first question is, what is major capital purchases? So anything that you cannot pay in full with your monthly cash flow, that will be your major capital purchases. So there are 2 types, the planned ones and the unplanned ones. So what are they? The planned ones usually is like when you're planning to buy a car, or you're planning for a vacation, or you're planning for a wedding. Those are your planned major capital purchases. But as for the unplanned ones, usually the surprises. Suddenly you have a leak in your roof, or your car breaks down, and then you have to fork out a big chunk of money for that. That will be your unplanned major capital purchases.
Okay. So how would one go about, I guess, covering those purchases? I mean, the planned ones, we can, put some money aside. Like we see the safe tank here. How do we pay for these planned and unplanned purchases? Are there different strategies?
Yeah. Well, the common ones are that there are 2 ways to pay for your major capital purchase. One is you borrow from a lender, and the other one would be paying cash, which you drain your own savings. So by paying by borrowing from a lender, you're pretty much paying interest, and that can be expensive depending on the interest rate, right? And then the other one would be paying by cash, which potentially you will lose a lot of interest that you can grow over time for that. So that will be pretty much the 2 ways of paying for your major capital purchases.
So it sounds like maybe the best strategy, if it's possible, would be, if keep your if you have cash set aside, don't use it And we've talked about this before, where you collateralize the savings or the safe tank, and then use monthly cash flow to pay off the borrowed funds, and that leaves the savings to continue to compound uninterrupted. That'd be the best strategy out of all of them.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that we did our first webinar. That was the wealth creator profile, because the saver would be the person who saves and then spends and then saves again for the next purchase, whereas the spender borrows and then pays back, and the wealth creator uses both strategies, other people's money and lets their money compound.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'll check with Pam. We've been kind of rolling here for a bit. Pam, any questions on the chat?
No questions so far.
Okay, that's again, I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but we'll roll with it. Okay, Tony, let's move forward. Personal GPS and the economic model or economic strategy.
Yes, the personal GPS is equivalent to your personal economic strategy. You can't get to where you're going without knowing where you're starting. So the starting point is such an important thing. So one of the first things we like doing is, if Pam could show the next slide, we actually calculate your lifetime income potential. It's very simple. In this example, we're using a 25-year-old that's planning on retiring at 65, and they're making only $60,000 a year. We're not going to have any growth in their income. We're not going to have any growth in savings or any savings. Just multiplying $60,000 a year works out to be $30 an hour, and $30 an hour turns into 60,000. 60,000 times 40 comes to 2.4 million. So that is the gross amount before taxes of 2.4 million, and it's hard to believe, but that's a large number, and you don't really realize how much you actually have going through your hands. If you go back yourself, anyone can do this at home, calculate this simple example, and they'll see how much money that has flown through their hands, and it's pretty shocking.
Yeah, not sure I want to do that, Tony.
No,
depressed here.
But the thing is, it's nice knowing what your wealth and income potential is, so you know where you're going. Now, there's another example of an older person. They're 50 years old, and they've only got 15 years to retire. And by the way, 65 is nothing but a number. A lot of people fixate that that's in stone, retirement. It's not. Retirement, it happens when you actually have enough money in your bank account or savings that you can turn around to your employer or whoever you're working with or for, and you can say, thank you very much, but I'm comfortable now, and I don't have to come back to work. And being in that position is so strong. However, 65 doesn't necessarily mean. For that 25-year-old, when I'm talking to them, they're thinking the number's 40. Or I would love to accomplish what they're looking at in that short of time. However, now looking at this 50-year-old, they've only got 15 years left of working. In this example, they're making $60,000 a year. That's still $900,000. It's almost $1 million. And it's hard to believe that that's how much money flows through our hands before the taxes. And it is quite astonishing. So to me, this is where the beginning of your personal economic model, which is your strategy. From here, we build forward. This is something everybody can do at home. You can just throw out the numbers, your hourly wage, multiply it, double it, then multiply it by the amount of years to your wish goal of retirement. The other thing that I like talking about this is when people ask how much do we need to retire, the standard industry jargon is, oh, you only need 60% of your working life income. Well, try living off of that.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this. I'm quite sure we mentioned it not only on the radio show, but in other webinars, that when you retire, every day is Saturday. I mean, you wake up in the morning and, you go for your coffee, maybe you have coffee at home, but then you go out, you do your shopping, and then you're out. It's like, well, let's grab a sandwich at, the local cafe. By the time you have your drink and your sandwich, you're in for $30 or $40. And it adds up quickly, and then you're just looking to do things. I mean, it's lifestyle creep even more so. And I think I'm just going to back it up here a little bit. What you're really driving home to me at this point is just looking at, somebody who's earning, $60,000 a year, regardless of their age. Some comes off for tax, but how much of that is chewed up by lifestyle is incredible. And they're after us. I mean, everybody wants, dollars a month. I mean, everything is, lease for, $199, your cell phone's only $99, and, cable package, just that and the other thing. The next thing you know, all these little 99s add up to, everything just going out the right side of that pipe, as you mentioned. It's like actually quite telling how much money is being spent. And we're consumer driven, unfortunately.
Yes, we're very consumer driven. And the irony of retirement is most of the people that I talk to, they say they don't know how they ever worked because they're busier in retirement than before, whether it's caring for an elderly parent or caring for a grandchild or just enjoying life, whether it's golfing, whether it's going mountain hiking, cycling, whatever. They're very active, and it's pretty telling. And they're going, and we got to live off of what? And again, I mentioned it earlier, not today, but in previous webinars, that one of the highest divorce rates comes in the 60s because people realize they don't have enough to live off of, and that financial stress just destroys the family, which is horrible at that age.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. And I think a lot of us can also relate to the aging parents. I mean, we're all getting older. And with COVID now, I'm hearing stories of people actually taking their parents out of some of these facilities and bringing them back home, which means, okay, maybe they need nursing care at home as opposed to in the facilities, just because they're scared of COVID. But yeah, it's I think a lot of people can relate to a lot that we're saying here, which is, can you retire on 60%, number one, and then the need to care for your parents.
Yes, exactly.
Then we get into the discussion of, do we take CPP earlier or later? We've already covered that off before, but there's a lot that goes into creating a strategy that makes sense.
Yes. So
Okay.
This is just one little piece.
Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Starting point. Sorry.
Did you want to say something, Tony?
Yeah, I was just saying that this is just one little piece, and it's a starting point of where you are on your journey of the strategy. And it is very complicated. However, we make it very simple, but you have to do a little bit of work yourself on this.
Okay. I'm just looking at the clock. We're coming up to time here. I'm going to check in with Pam, see if there's any questions out in the chat right now.
We got a question from Reggie. He asked, is there a time when it's too late to start the strategy?
Good question. Tony?
No, there's really never a time that's too late to start. It's just a matter of how much sacrifice do you want to make and how do you want to address it. And it's basically seeing the future and where you want to go. And that's basically it. Like starting too late. No, it's never too late. It's better to start than not starting. And that's basically what I have to say on that topic. Yeah,
I mean, it's never too late to start. Obviously, we've talked about this before, start early, save often. That's the best way. And we illustrated that in our previous webinar where, somebody starts at 25, saves for 10 years, as opposed to delaying to 45 and saving till retirement, and how you have to save 3 times as much. So it's incredible. It's that eighth wonder of the world, right? Compounding.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm just going to check in with Pam before we. Sorry, do you want to add something?
We touched on that before.
Yeah, we did. So I'm just going to check in with Pam one more time before we kind of wrap things up. Pam, any other questions from participants today or attendees?
Yeah. So we have a question from Lisa. She asked, what advice would you prepare for their home health care? Is there a specific strategy for this?
So sorry, could you repeat that? I think we lost the front end of that. It's about home care, but what was the first part?
Yeah, sorry. What advice would you give to people who need to prepare for their home health care? Is there a specific strategy for this?
Tony, did you want to talk about that? Home health care and strategy about how to save, I guess, for that, but like, caring for those elderly parents that we just talked about.
Yes. the strategy is basically working earlier on and starting to save and put money aside, knowing that there will be an issue. And then what are the wishes? Will the parents want to be in a home, or will they want to be at home with the kids? I know situations that some will make room for their loving parents in their house to a point that they can be in the house, but then there comes a time if with Alzheimer's or dementia or something that they just can't keep up, and they have to actually go out. So there is strategy, but it's about putting money aside and it's saving that. There's vehicles that can help with that, so it'll help build it faster. But one of the things is you have to have a view of what you're doing and putting money aside, because your future lifestyle depends on basically what you're doing today. So if you're spending everything you're making today, you're not going to have much of a future. So it's just a matter of setting things up and looking forward and looking at it.
Yeah, if I could add to that, at the end of the day, it comes back to what we've discussed and try to hammer home in every webinar and even on the radio show, is that liquidity, use and control, and knowledge knowing that you have liquidity, use and control of your capital. So the sooner you start saving, the sooner you have that kind of pot set up that doesn't fluctuate in value. You have something to draw from for those emergencies. I mean, who knows? For elder care, I mean that kind of comes in kind of an onset thing, but you can also have situations where disability hits, and that's another topic altogether. So Lisa, I hope we answered your question. I guess at the end of the day, you just have to start putting money aside for that. And there are specific strategies. We can't address them here on the show, but if you want to talk to us, we can certainly help you out, or your family or whoever. We can certainly discuss that. Pam, any other questions?
No other questions.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank everybody who attended. I'd like to thank Tony and James for coming out, Pam for throwing the slides up and keeping us on track. As I said earlier, this will be on QBFS TV YouTube channel once we get it edited and rendered, and there will be a summary sent out. If you didn't get your question, if there's one pops up at the end, we will try to get to it directly. So until next time, oh, sorry, Tony, I was just gonna, before I cut you off, how do we get in touch with you?
All right,
exactly. Great information. Bye-bye. So how do we get in touch with you, Tony?
Well, as everyone could see on our posted up is basically our social media posts, and follow us on social media, or like some people smash the buttons. I don't know what that language to me is. Link and connect with us that way. The best way to get a hold of us is through info@queensbridge.ca. One of us, James, Ray, or myself will reach back to you within 24 hours and set up a 15-minute chat. The 15-minute chat basically we'll just discuss some basic points and see if we can help you. And in that 15 minutes, you're going to be able to find out if there's value for you from us and what we can do for you.
Yeah, the tools in the 15-minute chat are quite impressive. I mean, you can find out a lot of information in 15 minutes. I was surprised when I started using it. So so I apologize for not getting that out there. Also, we will be on BNN Bloomberg Radio again in October. I think it's October 16th, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, there it is, October 16th. And it'll be 10 a.m. On 11:50 a.m. on the AM dial with BNN Bloomberg Radio. Well, I'm going to get rolling, Tony. I hope everybody has a safe evening. It looks like we have to build an ark tonight. A lot of rain here near my place. I'm not sure how you guys are making out your way.